Welcome to worship in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Charlotte. This is a special day. We gather today for a service that celebrates ministry, inspirational leadership, who we have been and who we strive to be, and Jay. Maybe not in that order. We are aware of changes coming both in living our 25-year vision and with the eagerly anticipated arrival in a few weeks of Eve, our second minister. I suspect no one is more eager for her arrival than Jay. We are not an easy congregation. The very things that make us who we are in all the ways we value and love also make us challenging. With no small amount of admiration and awe, we recognize that Jay has done this for 15 years and as a solo minister. In the summer of 2002, in preparation for our search for a new minister, focus groups were convened to answer two questions. The first question was, what do we want our new minister to be and do? We wanted a minister to provide strong leadership, deliver inspirational and challenging sermons, support our children's program, be a spiritual guide, support the diverse beliefs of our members, champion strong social action, and help us articulate who we are and who we want to be. The second question was, what would indicate success after 2 years? We identified that financial stability, improved volunteerism, a still thriving youth program, opportunity for involvement in small groups, a dynamic adult religious education program, higher and positive visibility in the Charlotte community, a wider circle of church leadership, and more staff to meet our needs who are happy and fairly paid would all indicate success. With great appreciation today, we recognize the achievement of these goals.
1941 essay, The Oversoul, an inquiry into the existence and nature of the human soul, Ralph Waldo Emerson tells, "But beyond this recognition of its own in particular passages of the individual's experience, it also reveals truth. And here we should seek to reinforce ourselves by its very presence. For the soul's communication of truth is the highest event in nature, since it does not give somewhat from itself, but gives itself and passes into and becomes the person whom it enlightens. We light this chalice in celebration and in gratitude for leadership willing to share the collective soul."
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Laurie Reed. I'm a longtime member of this congregation, and I have the pleasure of welcoming each of you to today's special service. We're honored to have guests among us. Our members would like to greet you following the service. So that we may do so, if you are visiting, please raise your hand and keep it raised. Members, please take note of the guests seated near you. After the service, invite them to join you for coffee and fellowship in Freeman Hall. Should it enhance your experience of future services, you can find both a large print order of service and a personal hearing assistance device on the table at the entrance to the sanctuary. If you'd like to learn more about us, please fill out a yellow card. Place your completed card in an offering basket when they're passed a little later in the service. Members with a life event to share can do so on the reverse side. You'll find them along with offering envelopes on the clipboards at the end of the row. Please begin passing them down the rows now. Some returning visitors may be interested in hearing about how to become a member. If so, please contact our membership coordinator, Kelly Green. Her contact information is on the back of your order of service. Again, to each of you, welcome. I'd like to call your attention to the announcements in the back of the order of service, and in particular, the UUCC Green Sanctuary Group will host a screening of the documentary Cowspiracy, The Sustainable Secret. And that will be this Friday at 7 p.m. in the sanctuary, and a discussion will follow the screening. If you are a new or prospective member interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism, this congregation and membership, you're invited to join us for a session called Discovering the UUCC on Saturday, April 28th, beginning at 9 a.m. And our Board of Trustees will host a question and answer session about the proposed new mission statement between services on Sunday, April 29th. We are a caring community, and thus we gather together in a spirit of love and concern for one another in times of challenge, in sorrow, and in times of celebration. Today, we hold Debbie and Tommy George with love and care as they mourn the death of Debbie's father. And we celebrate with Kendra and Chris Martin upon the birth of their daughter, Hensley. Today is indeed a wonderful celebration for all of us as we honor Jay's 15 years of gifted, inspirational, and caring ministry. I know that I speak for so many in this room who have been held up by you, Jay, during one or another of life's difficult and sometimes heartbreaking passages. Your presence steadies, and your deep compassion softens even profound grief, and that sometimes terrifying feeling that we are alone with our suffering. I offer my deepest appreciation for the generous gifts of heartfelt care and wise counsel you have offered me, my family, and to so many of us throughout your time at the UUCC. We will now hear from our beloved member, Colleen Beal, who would so like to be here to speak in person, but she will offer her words through the wonders of technology.
Hello, Jay. I am so excited to get this opportunity to celebrate with you your 15-year anniversary. As a congregant and a member of the board of directors, I have been fortunate enough to witness your leadership as you have directed and overseen the staff, facilities, programming, music, and budgets, and that is just the 10,000-foot view. I have also witnessed the long hours you have put in behind the scenes, contemplating and creating the sermons. The personal energy spent as you sit in the space with others during heartbreak and heartache. The compassion that is your person to absorb the injustice felt and lived by others. I have witnessed your inherent sense of justice, of how you imagine how the world could be, and have the conviction and courage to move it that way. I have witnessed the tireless way you spiritually and practically grow, stretch, push, and lead the congregation to feel and see the possibilities of how the world could be. And with the conviction and courage, we can move it that way. Congratulations on your 15-year anniversary. I love you.
I am not Fred Dotson. I wish I were Fred Dotson. And Fred wishes that he had not become stricken with the only case of laryngitis he has ever had in his whole life this week. But I have the privilege of reading Fred's words in tribute to Jay's 15 years of ministry. It is my honor to speak to you today about someone whom I care deeply about and who has had a profound impact on me. I was fortunate to be in the audience 15 years ago to hear Jay's first sermon. Memory fades, but I do recall him envisioning the future of this church. It was a bold vision that frankly seemed impossible at that time. I remember him speaking of greatly increasing our financial resources, our membership, our staffing, our religious education program. To say that I was impressed would be a vast understatement. I was inspired to get more involved in the life of this church, and that feeling has not faded one bit. Since we called Jay to be our minister on April 6, 2003, the funding from the congregation has increased by nearly 100%. The Memorial Endowment Trust has increased by 240%, and membership has increased by nearly 30%. In 2003, we lacked the professional staff needed to manage a congregation of this size. That is no longer the case, and we will soon thankfully welcome our second minister. In the past 15 years, we have better defined the role of the Board of Trustees and the professional staff. We have created bold envisioning plans, and we recently adopted our 25-year vision, which will guide us for years to come. Since 2003, we have grown closer to one another through our commitment to congregational care. We have continued to grow and refine the relationship between the church and the Open Door School. We have made much needed improvements to our facilities, our communications, and we have solidified our commitment to affordable housing and to racial and environmental justice. There is so much more than I can cover today, but those of us who have been here the past decade and a half know well the transformation that has taken place. Finally, I cannot speak of the past 15 years without mentioning Jay's contribution to our Sunday services. Let me say that in the past 15 years, I have experienced some of the most profound and moving moments of my life in this space. I have been moved by the music, the songs, and of course, by the sermons. I have a practice of listening to every sermon at least twice. Yeah. Remarkable. I think about how much work Jay puts into crafting every word, and I've decided that I owe it to him to listen more deeply. There are a few sermons I have listened to many times, and one in particular that I listened to during times of challenge. Recently, I was on my way to a meeting that I did not want to attend. I knew that I would be greeted on my arrival by a group of angry people. I paused and started a recording of the sermon entitled, "Something Other Than God." I listened to the entire sermon on the way to the meeting, and I was once again moved by Jay saying repeatedly, "Assume the best, assume the best." His words guided me that night as they have on many other nights. Thank you, Jay. And now Fred, as incoming stewardship chair, would like to invite Ann Doss-Helms, current stewardship chair, to say a few words.
It's me again. Not only have I been your stewardship chair for most of the past year, but I am one of the old-timers who was here when we brought Jay on board. How many of the rest of you were here then? Yeah, so a lot of us remember that it was a very exciting time and also a challenging time, because Jay made it clear he wasn't just coming here to pat us on the head and tell us we're wonderful, but to push us to be better. And one of the ways he did that was by talking much more directly than we were used to about money. He laid out the challenge, actually the expectation, that we would commit 5% of our household income to this congregation. At that time, I was making what I now recognize as a fairly casual financial contribution. I had to hear Jay's message a few times before it took root, but eventually I did get serious about moving toward that 5% goal. And I think that I actually hit it when my contributions were going up and then the recession hit and my household income went down and they hit that magic 5% and stayed there for a while. But when things got better, I realized that not only could I do this, but I wanted to. So here we are again at another turning point for our congregation. We made a promise to ourselves to grow and stretch, not just by bringing on a second minister, but by taking on a serious, deeper mission. And that requires a more serious level of stewardship from all of us. We went into this budget year with a deficit, and thanks to those of you who have increased your pledges, we are very close to closing that. But the coming year is going to require an even bigger commitment. They're working on the budget now, and we are well below what we're going to need for the coming year. So Yes, this is our regular reminder for those of you who are in the April group for our year-round pledging that this is your time, this is the day. We will have somebody at a pledge table in the fellowship hall. There is an email in your order of service. It's very easy, and we hope that you will pledge generously. But as Susan Frederick Gray recently reminded us, this is no time for a casual faith. So I'm going to take a little bigger message here. If you're one of those people who your pledge month already came and went, and maybe you just defaulted to keeping things the same because it was so easy, I would ask you to look deeply at whether you can move yourself closer or even to that 5% mark and do it now rather than wait until next year, because that would be so powerful going into that budget that people are working on as we speak. If you're a visitor who's been coming so often that this is starting to feel like your home, but you just haven't made that commitment, I would urge you to please join us and become part of this that we're doing. And maybe you're already one of our generous givers, and if so, thank you. Even so, I'm going to ask you to consider whether you could do more as we move into this budget year. At a time like this, it's truly an honor to be able to take ownership and to support not just Jay, not just Eve, but all of the staff who have been leading us in this journey that we're on. Thank you.
It's such a beautiful hymn. The story is kind of interesting, actually. The guy who wrote it was 19 years old. He'd been the organist at the local Presbyterian church down the street from the Unitarian Universalist congregation I served in California since he was 14. And one day at a birthday party for my board chair, he was in a rock band who was accompanying the dancing at this party, came up and said hello to me, asked me what I was doing with my life, and because I knew him from the interfaith services. And I told him I was on the hymn book commission. He says, "Oh, I'd like to help." And he said, "Oh, I know you don't know me enough to know whether I composed music well or not, but just give me a text and I'll write something. If you don't like it, that's fine. You know, I don't have any ego." So I gave him a text. 2 days later, the text I gave him is in the book. He calls me and said, I'm ready. You want to come and hear it?" So I go over to his house, and he gets out the keyboard, and he plays that tune with those words, and I cried. I said, "You made that for us? That's beautiful." And it was one of the whole committee went wild when they heard it the first time. Total accidental thing, but great. So last night, folks joked about Jay's use of etymological language, the origins of words, a Greek word here or there. Using that idea, I'm going to do something similar myself. The title of my poem is "The Etymological Life, 15 Years." When she is 15 years old, Carmelina becomes a shepherd. In her dialect, pastore, from the old Latin root to feed, to protect. She tends her flock high in the sunlit pastures above her little village. 50 years later, when Carmelina is my grandmother, and I dote on her every word, she chances, while at a funeral home for a neighbor's wake, to catch a glance of that awful print of blonde Jesus striding out in front of his flock. "Ma quest pittor non sa niente," she announces in dialect, shaking her head. "This painter doesn't know a damn thing." Pastori follow behind the flock, not barge ahead, she tells me. That staff they carry, it's just to protect the sheep from the wolves, that's all. But those hungry sheep, they know exactly where their nourishment grows all by themselves. And they also know where home is, too. And for 15 years, another shepherd, another pastore, has led in the exact same way, by following behind the questions, following the meaning in teary eyes, following the difficult insights, following the redemptive laughter of children, following the confessed bewilderment of this very tough age, following the effective, if often counterintuitive, solutions. He trusts that his, shall we say, flock knows where to find the nourishment that feeds them. He trusts that they know where home is, too. And speaking of nourishment, in ancient Athens, they called the folks who waited on tables in the local food court diakonoi, deacons. Across the Adriatic, in shining Rome, they didn't borrow the Greek word like they often did. They translated it into their own dialect, minister, table server. Serving up the sweet, the bitter, the salty, the sour, the rich, health-giving sustenance that livens life and invites gratitude from all who have turned from entitlement. Not the cook, mind you, not the owner, but the server, the one who brings the glory to the table so that all, everyone, might take and eat. And for 15 years, another minister has served up nourishment he has not prepared. A bowl of dogwood petals silvered by the moon he finds inside his camera. a perfect plate of poems by Joy Harjo or Neruda, which astonish and then spark. A charger heaped with crisp reasoning, a cup of passion for inescapable truthfulness, a sweetmeat of story witnessed and lived, a dedication to serving at the table of life, even when the self-anointed try to block the way to the table and gunshots pierce the hearts of both the quick and the dead. And then there's love, root word, all the way back past Athens, past Rome, past that shepherd in the hills and the ancient table server, past the last 5,000 years. There it is, the now lost word, lyuv, meaning to care, meaning to love. Maybe if you keep following it back further, you might end up back at the beginning of time itself. You know, love, the small nothing that blossomed into this everything, even this moment, for over 13 billion years. Yet in the brief breath of these last 15 years, in this shepherd pastor, in this table server minister, we no longer need to dig for ancient etymologies or pry frantically to find the most ancient, authentic root. He's right here, breathing with us all in these 15 years, the love of Melissa, the love of Emerson, the love of parents and family, the love of this congregation, and all that is both visible and invisible here. Love of our whole common world, too. In a plate of minted artichokes shared with laughing colleagues, in the photos he takes that turn poetry into image by magic, and in bending with those whom the powers bend, and rising up with them by their side when they rise. Love, also of love itself, the very love that breaks hearts and mends hearts and heartens every one of us. For 15 years of love, we give our praise and thanks, for each year's been a gift which we are blessed to use to build the common good and make our future glad.
Hi, Jay. I am so happy to be able to celebrate your completion of 15 years at UUCC. Over the last nearly 6 years, you have been my dear, beloved friend, and I have come to feel like a part of both the UUCC family and your family with Melissa and Annie. After we first met in the middle of the night at the airport in Mumbai, I quickly understood a few things about you. One, this guy can really tell a story, and he doesn't leave out any detail. As you probably figured out, I appreciate that immensely. I remember how we could be out talking on your porch in Charlotte and not realize the sun had gone down 6 hours before, and we've been sitting in the dark since then. The other point I very quickly understood, Jay, walking in the villages of Maharashtra and visiting you in Charlotte, is the profound commitment you have to challenging injustice. That has been true in what you write, in what you preach, and in what you do. Soon after we met, you and a number of the members of UUCC courted arrest at the State House. The conviction behind those actions, and many since then, have deeply inspired me, and they've deeply inspired our partners in India. I can't wait to see you, Melissa, Annie, and the entire UUCC family again. Congratulations. I love you, Jay.
Hi, I'm the Reverend Rosemary Bray McNatt. I'm president at Star King School for the Ministry in Berkeley, California. It's my honor to pay tribute to Jay Leach on this wonderful occasion of 15 years of service to your congregation. It's an honor that he is a Star King graduate, and it's just as wonderful for us that he is an active and valued member of our Board of Trustees. I first met Jay because he was on the search committee that brought me to Star King. And the questions that he asked and the manner in which he probed my desire to serve gave me my first indication of what a valuable board member he would be. It's wonderful to be in partnership with him. It's wonderful to listen to his clarity at times of difficulty and in times of visioning. And it's especially wonderful to know that the counter-oppressive work that we do at Star King is mirrored in the social justice work that Jay does in Charlotte. It's a wonderful partnership for us, and we hope it is for Jay. And we hope that you have a wonderful time celebrating the wonderful gifts that Jay brings. Congratulations, Jay.
Through our generosity, we can celebrate where we have been, but more importantly, where our vision is taking us. In lieu of lighting candles, we'll reflect in our seats during the music. We will now receive the offering.
Jay, thank you for letting me drop in on you this evening. I'm deeply grateful to be able to share this occasion with you. And congratulations to you and your congregation on this remarkable milestone in shared ministry. I've actually brought several friends with me. You and I attended the Large Church Senior Ministers Conference several weeks ago, a group that is deeply grateful to you for your leadership of the group in recent years, and several of them would like to share their tribute to your leadership on this occasion.
Dear Jay, I am with you in spirit as you celebrate this anniversary with those people that you serve. One of the blessings of being with you is to understand that the language of the Word made flesh applies to each and to all of us. Your embodiment of the gospel has offered me such depth and such grace. I wish that I could be with you, but you are a blessing to us all, even at a distance.
Every morning I get up, and one of the things I do in my devotions is to call to mind the faces of colleagues and other teachers who have made a real difference in my life. Jay Leach shows up often in my morning meditations, and it's because at a certain point in my life, he was willing to call me on behavior that I knew I needed to change. I couldn't get to it, and somehow he had the courage and the clarity to ask me to be accountable to my own best intentions. It was a remarkable moment for me, and I can only imagine how the people of the Charlotte Church have benefited by that same courage and clarity.
I'm Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, President of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Congratulations, Jay Leach and the congregation at Charlotte, for 15 years of shared ministry. Jay, I continue to be inspired by your prophetic and pastoral ministry, and by the way that the Charlotte congregation, all of you, are showing up for love and justice as Unitarian Universalists in your community and the larger world. Thank you for your ministry. Congratulations.
Jay, I have two more things to add. The first is to say thank you. Only you know how important you have been to me personally and professionally over the past number of years as a colleague and friend and confidant. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. And the other is to say that I envy your congregation. The list of preachers I would get out of bed to go here on a Sunday morning if I didn't have my own pulpit to fill is very short, and you are at the top. Blessings to you and your congregation as you continue this journey of shared ministry together.
all, a heron in full beauty, kaleidoscopic leaves, a farmhouse sunrise beauty. In each of your days, may you be fed by beauty. When you can't find your ground and losses abound, beauty. When your tapestry frays and grief has its way, beauty. It never needs you to be anything that you can't be. Whatever unfolds, may you be held by beauty. The eyes of your child when you make them smile, beauty. Dear friends by your side, a love that abides, beauty. 600 sermons, and every word crafted carefully, inspiring us all this time, transforming all our lives, challenging us to shine, beauty.
Before Peter Drucker became the world-famous management guru, he taught religion at Bennington College in Vermont. Years later, it is reported that he said that out of all the jobs in America, the President of the United States, the CEO of a hospital, a university president, and a church pastor were the hardest jobs in America. After hearing all the wonderful stories this weekend, I hope that you can see that while the job of a parish minister involves plenty of mental and emotional labor, the ministry is also an amazing gift that most of us who said yes to this life would trade for no other. And so it is true, isn't it, Jay, that the daily grind of the church pastor can be a chaotic whirlwind of demands and deadlines. There's always another good idea to follow up on. There's another event to plan, another phone call to return, another email to write. And that the wheel of the year also continues to turn, relentlessly giving us another Sunday, another Christmas, another Easter. The cycles of human life, too, bring occasions for celebrating and consoling, healing and grieving. And so it goes, and so it goes. Ministry demands the very best that a person has to give, their best thoughts, their full energy, and their deepest engagement with life. Mercifully, in between the tasks of running a good-sized nonprofit organization, there lie the more creative parts of the work: the reading, the reflecting, and the relating. The relating. The relating transforms parish ministry from toil to treasure. When a person says yes to pastoring a congregation, they say yes to living among the people in a particular place, at a particular time in their history, joining them for a common quest for a life abundant with connection, courage, compassion. It is the quality of this kind of relating that allows a minister to serve 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. There is much talk among our ministerial group about self-care. We encourage each other to eat right and exercise, and go to the doctor. We remind each other that at the end of a difficult week, we can pick up the phone, and we know that there are trustworthy partners who will just simply listen to us. And then, of course, we can turn to our families to help keep us grounded and humble. Woven into this fabric of self-care are the threads offered by the people as well. You, exactly as you arrive. You, who struggle with finding hope in today's world. You, who strive to stay awake in a world that wants you to sleepwalk through life. The people, these people, you, the people, create and recreate the community, and you can be a great source of self-care for your ministers, because what sparks our imaginations and what anchors our lives of ministry is you. You know, I can remember certain Sunday mornings when I let the tyranny of the task list, the to-do list, and also the critical self-talk in my head weigh me down. And sometimes I just felt like I had to drag myself to the pulpit. Those were days of forgetting. Forgetting that ministry is not about producing and performing, forgetting that ministry comes from a power beyond my own, forgetting that ministry is not a solo labor, but a work of grace. And on those days of forgetting, I would stand there at the pulpit for a few minutes and just look out over the people, looking at the faces of those to whom I had said yes years ago. I remember the people that I had fallen in love with. And it was their depth of living, and it was their quality of caring for one another that allowed me to lead worship that day. You say that Jay has taught you to long for the endless immensity of the sea, to reach for the beauty of life even while confronting its brokenness. You say that Jay has inspired you. He has been a source of inspiration. Isn't that a gorgeous word? Inspiration. Inspire. Inhale. Breathe in take in. Jay has been able to inspire you because he has taken you in. He has taken you in. Ministry with you and among you has shaped his heart and his imagination, for we are each other's harvest. That compelling image is from the poetry of Gwendolyn Brooks. We are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. If you want to care for your ministers and support them for many, many years to come, then take good care of each other. If you want to inspire your ministers, then dedicate your lives to a life of faith with these people in this place at this pivotal time in history. And so as this weekend celebration draws to a close, you are all standing at such an exciting threshold. A new minister is on her way, and the second minister and a new mission statement is waiting to be endorsed. And so I am so optimistic for the future of Unitarian Universalism in Charlotte. May this church continue to grow and change, healing the earth and all of her people. May it be so.
So, there is an unsubstantiated rumor that has prevailed for quite some time around here that you love poetry. I don't know how this stuff gets started. Maybe Facebook, maybe the Russians. But we thought, let's just go with it. So, you have an all-expense-paid trip to the, wait for it, Geraldine R. Dodge Poetry Festival in October in the, according to the Chamber of Commerce, vibrant downtown arts district of Newark. So this trip includes the 4-day pass to all events at the festival, 3 nights lodging within a short walk of the events, money for food and incidentals, although I'm not convinced he'll find anything to eat there. Now, after 15 years of knowing someone, there is almost always a good news, bad news thing. The good news for us is we know you well. Okay. The bad news for you is we know you well. Thus, our gift includes a non-refundable round-trip flight. We debated, we consulted with multiple mental health professionals, and with your beloved, by you and us, wife, and recognized that this could make you highly anxious. And in the end, we decided we didn't care. We don't want you to be able to find a reason that you cannot go and can't get away to attend this festival, which another rumor has it you've been wanting to do since the 1990s. That's a lot of years of excuses. So this is a done deal. The second part of your gift is a collection of heartfelt personal notes from members of the congregation talking about what you mean to them, what they've learned from you, how they love you. And it is in this beautiful box, which started out as a plain white cardboard lowly box and was transformed by our very own Patricia Rabel and lettered with lettering by her husband, Mike. And the lettering says, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" By Mary Oliver. So we say, we are grateful that you've chosen to spend a significant part of your life, your love, and your energy with us.
If you could imagine being 8 years old and someone unexpectedly says to you, "There's a trip to Disney World," after which you're going to Epcot, and then to Harry Potter Land, and then to the beach, and it's all paid for, you can start to understand what getting to go to the Dodge Festival will mean to me. I will be that kid in a spot that I've dreamed about going to since I learned about that festival many years ago, and have indeed had on my bucket list that one day, I would get to go immerse myself in poetry. And the great news for you, and I heard loudly and clearly last night, that I will come back with more incomprehensible poetry to share with you, even more. The Dodge Festival changed the course of my life by being able to listen in on it. It was through the Dodge Festival that I found out about Robert Hass, and it was because Robert Hass was at Cal Berkeley that I looked more intently at Starr King School for the Ministry, in the hopes that I would get to study with Bob Hass, which I did, and which was so remarkable for me. This gift means more to me than you can imagine. Thank you. There's not a script for this, because most often when these kinds of things are said, afterward people go to reception, and then after that they sprinkle your ashes somewhere. It occurred to me sitting here in this service that the biggest gift of this day is that it lays a foundation for the next years together. I've taken in your appreciation and your love, and it means more to me than I can tell you. This has been a shared ministry. I'm so grateful for those of you who said yes and kept saying yes, who've chosen to step out in leadership in this congregation. I have been the unbelievable beneficiary of professional colleagues here that are the finest in their position in the whole association. I live in somewhat regular fear that my colleagues will figure that out and raid us. So I try to remind my colleagues most every day how utterly happy they are here. Thank you to each of them with whom I continue to get to serve, and to those in the past who helped carry this load with me in such admirable ways. One of the remarkable things about this weekend is to get to be surprised by the presence of someone without whom I wouldn't be in this room. 1992, I walked into a classroom in Berkeley in a summer session, a course called the Spiritual and Contemporary Art. It's where all that stuff stirred around in me that now ends up on the screen that you love so much. And by the end of the first day, I was in love with Mark Bellatini. Never imagining that that love would be reciprocated so generously. Mark has been the steady presence in my life as long and more deeply than anyone else. And when the course of my ministry in another tradition was coming to its end, and I truly imagined that I was on my way to getting, as my dad would say, a real job, I called Mark and said, before I close the book on ministry and begin to imagine what else is out there for me, tell me again about this Unitarian Universalism thing. And Mark laughed and said, I knew when you walked into my classroom in 1992 that one day we were going to have this conversation. And what took you so damn long? And some other stuff I can't say from the pulpit. Mark, thank you on behalf of all of us for your deep and robust and beautiful service to our whole movement, and for finding a place in the immensity of your ministry for me, and for continuing to be that person that I call. Thank you. I dreamed about a moment that we had last night for a very long time, and when I got to see two of the people I love and admire so much meet for the first time, it was part of what made last night so special for me. And to see Mark Bellatini and Derek Mitchell together was a scene I have awaited, and now I'm looking forward to the day when I sit down. I know you don't believe this, but this will happen. I sit down quietly with a pad and just take notes on their conversation. Two of the most brilliant minds I've ever encountered. And how well I remember walking out into the kaleidoscopic cacophony of the Mumbai airport and wondering what in the world I had gotten myself into, and seeing a smiling face and a waving hand, getting into a vehicle with Derek Mitchell and beginning what I still believe is a lifetime of deep connection. Derek, you have meant so much to me, and thank you so much. And your presence here today, I shouldn't say this, but Derek and Kamala don't drive. And they drove down from Washington, which made me exceedingly nervous, and they're driving driving back to Washington right away, trying to get ahead of this storm, so I'm going to wrap up so they can get out of here. But the gift of both of your being here is so wonderful. To all of you who poured yourselves into planning this and making it possible, I'm so deeply grateful. I believe in you. I believe in what we're about. I believe in the importance of this place and of our vision. I take it the comment last night was a joke about 15 more years, because I think you're better at math than that. But there are years together left ahead, and I'm more deeply committed to what those can mean than I've ever been. Thank you so very much.
It is not uncommon when a church or church leader reaches a threshold or significant event that a hymn is commissioned in honor of that occasion. I brought this up to this committee behind me, and they said, "Great, would you go do that?" And who better to go to first than this father of our gray hymnal? If you look in the front page, you'll see his name, who has many hymns in there. So we chose together, and with Melissa's help, the tune, Sing Out Praises for the Journey, which was sung at their wedding. And Mark wrote these beautiful words, which we're about to sing.
So the tune by Purcell, Henry Purcell, called Westminster Abbey. It's in the hymn book with words by Mark DeWolf, who is a very good friend of mine and a colleague who died of AIDS in 1988. I just did a lecture on his life up in Canada in October. So it was a great honor not only to have sung it at their wedding, but to use that tune that Mark so loved. So the one thing about the slide on the screen is that the last line of the first verse, it's moved with a D at the end, not just move, just a typo. So it makes it easier to sing. So please rise and let's sing.
And now go with confidence into the days ahead, trusting that love and faithfulness will not abandon you, for you are the work of this creation, and its love endureth forever. Amen. Please follow us out into the reception held by the board.